Tim.
Oh. Yeah, it was nice having Bridget here because then I didn't have to answer any questions.
Oh, no.
I could just sit and smile.
I'm coming out the gate right now.
I just have to do pre-introduction.
Keep it short. I'm Tim Jimenez.
Jimenez.
I'm a state rep, District 28.
District 28, and you're an environmental engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And he is very, very well. He's full of knowledge when it comes to the environment, protecting the environment, the regulations required to do so.
And he's not just protecting the environment on word and hearsay. He's an environmental engineer, and he comes at it from a realistic view and recognizes that we as humans are a part of that environment, and he also needs to protect humans at the same time.
You should switch us so when we look at him, we're not looking away from him.
We are looking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's working?
Yeah.
Okay. And he looks at us and it looks right. Okay.
Yeah. We got everything set up.
All right. Got to switch.
Thanks.
Jared, you're good.
Okay.
Tim, I got to ask you right out the gate.
All right.
HB 119, lay it on me.
Yeah, I've still got a little bit of work to do. I'm working with several sheriffs and some tactical folks. Obviously, a big help for this has been Clark Aposhian. My wife and I moved here to Utah in 2008 from Washington. We were living in Everett, north of Washington, which I'm kind of glad we escaped from that area. It's pretty, but
I know
policies aren't. So when we moved here, I met up with Clark Aposhian. My office as an engineer happened to be in the same office as Clark Aposhian. So
is that a name of a person or a business?
Clark Aposhian. He's the Utah Shooting Sports Council. Wait, yeah.
Okay.
So his name is Clark.
Aposhian is his last name.
Got it.
So
it sounds like a business, like a
cool
business.
It's our Armenian name. So he really helped a lot with helping me understand the laws here in this state. My wife and I got our concealed permits shortly after moving to Utah, and we've been carrying ever since then. So we knew that you could carry in our schools, and we thought, what a great state. You know, the fact that if you have a concealed carry permit and you're allowed on school grounds, there you can carry. So we would carry when we were at our children's marching band events and wrestling and field trips and everything else. And I knew a lot of teachers that carried. However, my concern and the concern of many of the teachers have brought to me is the fact that if they have to use their firearm in a defensive manner in school, they know that the UEA will not have their back. The one union that is supposed to provide protection, it's a wholly owned political organization, and they don't care. You know, firearms is outside of the purview of what they care for, and they don't recognize that right. So we already have guns in schools. We have for a long time. It's proven to be a pretty amazing thing because we do not have gun-free zones in our schools, which means they are no longer targets for crazy people who want to do harm to our children and to innocents. So what I have done with HB 119, which everyone can go online and read it, and again, that's not what the final version is. We're still working on refining it. We want to get this right. It allows school employees to get tactical training. We're working on the hours, but likely somewhere a maximum of somewhere around 20 or 25 hours where they will get reimbursed for that tactical training, as well as providing a safe so that the teacher can keep, if they don't want to carry the firearm, they can keep it locked safely in the classroom, like a biometric lock. We'll reimburse them for that, as well as putting a sign, a clearly labeled sign on each of the doors of the school that says that this is not a gun-free zone, and the individuals will be met with armed resistance. Since that's already the case, we might as well put it on the door. So that's the basics of this. We want teachers to be tactically trained. Now, there's a lot of people saying, well, you don't want a bunch of people running around, you know, trying to find a shooter. Everyone will get confused. This is a defensive law. What we're looking at is if a teacher or a school employee knows that there's an active shooter, we want them to secure the room they're in. So that means the students in that classroom will be safe and protected.
That's an opening for someone to start up a training that is designed around teachers.
Yeah, and we already have a lot of tactical schools here. All they have to do is retool a little bit. They can design a small classroom area, and boom, they're taken care of.
Yep, and it's designed around teachers it'd be defensive behind doors training, where they go in, barricade the kids in a corner, and then they arm themselves between them and
Yeah, they're following
entryway.
protocol already,
Yeah.
and they're protecting their classroom already and keeping kids out of harm's way. But there's a secondary protection, and that is if a gunman gets in the door, that shooter or that teacher can now defend the classroom. So it's an even fight.
Yeah. And we hear a lot of people who say, well, we have training in place where a teacher is supposed to throw a rock or throw some canned food at them. I see that in other states. I'm like, this is just throw a little piece of lead at them.
I
And
thought
take care
it'd
of the
be an
problem.
apple.
Yeah, throw the lead.
Wouldn't
So-
it be an apple they'd throw at them? That's
and I
what
want
should
this
be there.
to apply to not just teachers. I said school employees because a janitor certainly has the ability to secure a small area. You know, a school administrator, school counselor can certainly secure the office in which they work. A coach, it would be nice to have a coach be able to secure the gym in which they are. They do their job. I think the most important thing of this is we already have firearms in our schools. Our teachers, our administrators, parents, vendors, anyone who can legally carry in our school. Why not provide the resources so that these individuals can be trained in a way that will assure their ability to protect? We're not changing any existing laws. You do not have to go through this training in order to carry on.
You
On
just have to
school
go
grounds.
through concealed weapons training.
Yeah, you have
And
to have
you
your
have to
concealed
be-
carry.
So are you going by time, or could there be like a monetary amount for qualified training, which that could then include your concealed carry permit class, and then also the permitting process.
So right now,
And then-
teachers and school administrators, I believe, do not have to pay for a permit because the Utah Shooting Sports Council does a free training every year.
Okay.
That's
We've
good.
already
Teachers, do you hear that?
you can get free training. That's who Clark Aposhin and his group are. They reach out to Utah Shooting Sports Council. It's free for a teacher or administrator if you want a permit. Now you still have to pay for the actual permitting, but we're working on, and I'm not working on, I know others are working on a bill that says that if you are a teacher or administrator, you may not have to pay for your concealed carry permit as well. I'm just simply working on the training side of things.
You said the Utah Shooting
Sports Council.
Sports Council.
Yeah. They do Gun Talk Utah on Saturdays. Clark Aposhin is the big contact there.
That's awesome.
So
I love it. I love it. And I feel like a lot of parents would feel better knowing that if in fact there is a teacher who is armed, that teacher is not only armed, but they are taking these tactical training courses and they're constantly bettering themselves. They're
Mhm.
protecting the weapon at all times so children won't get to it. And they can also work within the sheriff's office, the local PD to know what the plan is in the event that this happens. And they still do what they're always going to do. But there's a second line of defense if that person gets through the door.
yeah. Now there obviously are always going to be some concerns with this.
Yeah.
Right now, concealed carry permit that's not a public record. I want this training to count as some of the, I believe, 200 hours that they're supposed to get a year. I want this to count as some of that training. But the one thing we need to do as we're scoping this is to make sure that it becomes a pretty serious crime if you let that list out. So we will make sure that local law enforcement knows who has this training.
That's brilliant.
But we don't want the public to know, and we don't want administrators to be punitive.
California leaked it about 8 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was leaked hard. And it was a scary moment because it leaked who had carry permits, and there in California it's like freedom permits. I don't know what they call it, and also their address.
Wow.
You doxed them.
And that was leaked
Wow.
like 8 years ago, and it was heavy.
And this is called the Shooting Sports Council.
Utah
or
Shooting Sports Council, I believe that's what they call themselves.
I just want to make sure that
I always get the words
the
mixed
only-
together.
we can help people if they heard something on the show, then I can direct them someplace. And how would I spell this gentleman's name that you said?
Clark Aposhin. I
Yes.
can't remember how to spell potion.
We could
It
Facebook
just sounds
it.
like a band name.
The
to
only
me.
thing that I
If
could
you
be
look up Utah Shooting Sports Council, his name's on there as part of the group.
I only see one concern with this myself, if I was
Okay.
to lay this out. My concern is that when the police do respond, I think this is easily mitigated, but I think you need to have prior training with all police officers on active shooters in every school. And those police officers in that county, in that city, and whatever, and those teachers come up with and recognize the plan on how they're going to identify each other.
There is my bill works in conjunction with a bill being worked on by Representative Wilcox. So he has a.
Thank you, Dwayne.
I can't speak too much to what he does, but in his bill, I'd like him to speak to it. But that there will be an effective communication.
Good.
There'll be a single point of
That's
contact.
whether it's single point of contact,
And
whether
that's
it's
what he's working on is a
there's
single
a deal
point of
made
contact.
up
Yeah.
that the teachers have a certain high vis vest, or they
So-
put on a hat, whatever.
Effectively, when someone comes into a school in these active shooter situations, you have a lot of police that have to kind of get together, figure out what's going on, and then go in.
Yeah,
His bill
they
addresses,
don't even stop and figure out
Yeah,
anymore. They
yeah.
assault.
Yeah.
You don't
So-
stop.
What he will do is create a single point of contact with all of the information. So when officers arrive, they know exactly what's going on.
Good. I think I don't.
And that's how mine coordinates with him in that.
Good.
Assuming his bill and my bill both pass, that list, that group of teachers will be known to that single point of contact, and that will allow that information to be disseminated immediately.
Yeah, I would say big pink hats, or however you do it,
Yeah,
but make it so that the police come around a corner,
and that's a good point.
visibly identified.
Yeah.
The teacher retracts back into the room, locks
Yeah.
the
And
door.
completely secret.
And
Like
it-
it's a meeting
And
you
that's
have.
why you don't announce it on a show. That's why the police and the teachers figure that out.
Yeah.
It's not a
And
legislative
this
thing.
is where it's important that we do something like this with this kind of training, because right now, I know at least in Tooele, I know a lot of teachers that do carry,
Mhm.
and right now, if we have an active shooter situation and police show up and we've got armed teachers, there is no method for addressing this.
Yeah.
And we don't know the level of training people have.
Yeah.
And we don't know what kind of advice or tactical training and teaching they've been given. We just know we know nothing.
Mhm.
And that is a scary situation.
Yeah.
As much as, people knowing that our schools are not gun-free zones does prevent people from coming in, we do run into that issue of, yes, but how much tactical training do they have? And
It's
how
absolute.
confident are they? So we need to make sure we go to that next level. And again, you can still carry in a school without this training. It doesn't change anything in existing law. It just adds an extra level of training. And it also indemnifies those who've gone through this training if they have to use a firearm in a tactical situation and a defensive situation. They don't have to worry about a lawyer before they pull that trigger. The last thing I want is a teacher who has to defend one of our kids more worried about what some lawyer's going to do down the road than defending our kids in that moment.
So
On
will
that
the
note-
state provide some kind of legal
Yeah, there-
protection?
there
Or
is-
just a reimbursement for someone to own a policy, a small policy
Yeah.
that protects them in the event of a shooting.
They have some indemnification right now. There's some protection, but we want to make sure it's clearly spelled out. That's where we ran into an issue. Is we've had some people look into this and they're like, well, we think, and it appears as if, but there's no definitive, yes, they are covered.
You're
In
really
this instant.
you're essentially writing this idea for the very first time.
Yeah, and there's where where I'm saying what's happening is a lot of people are reading up online about this, that, and the other thing. And like I said, what we have out there still isn't final.
KSL's
So
scared of it. I
Yeah.
read KSL's, and you could tell that guy was a blubbering mess. Like,
well,
he
yeah,
had
I
to-
don't.
he
There's a
was-
lot of no comments out there for a lot of media sources because they're going to read it, they're going to freak out, and then they also, for some reason, people don't understand the bill writing process. It takes several iterations typically.
Oh, I'm sure.
And this one,
And it,
But this one's a good one. And
Yeah.
not to mention, I mean, all you're doing is you're protecting the kids
Mhm.
and you're protecting the teachers to empower them to protect the kids.
Yeah. And this isn't, but some people have this interpretation that I'm making teachers go through tactical training.
Yeah.
This is all voluntary.
Yeah.
right?
We may start this out as a grant project and put $5 or $10 million in a pot, whatever we can get. And it's a first come, first serve. We get those teachers training. And hopefully then we can start saying, hey, there's a lot of interest in this, and we can turn it from a grant-based program into an ongoing funded project. You know,
I mean, even if the state just covered their monthly bill for US or SCCA or whichever one of those
yeah,
those self-protection organizations, that's still
it's It's more than what they
cheaper
have right
than
now.
losing a child in school.
Yes, exactly.
And I would like to add that, school boards or school, what are they called? They're basically unions. They're the last
UEA?
people
Yeah, the
that are
UEA.
probably going to protect a teacher. They're going to be like, we don't want this in school. But
Mhm.
if there is a way to do it, because when they get their permit, they've already sat through a class, they understand the wins, the nots, the hows. Usually their mental health is kind of gauged during that class. If there was any red flags that,
Yeah.
hopefully someone would say, say
once
something.
if you've been involuntarily, what's the word?
Locked up for being loony.
Yeah, then you're already on the list. And
Well, yeah, you can't.
You
If
become
you've
a
had any of those
prohibited.
issues, you've got to figure out. You've got to get that adjudicated away before you can even purchase a firearm.
exactly.
You know,
So you're already a prohibited possessor at that point. So
and even then, just think. There was that school in Florida where it was the gym teacher protected his kids.
Mhm.
Imagine if he'd have been armed.
Mhm.
There was, and
that's the sad thing is a lot of times when you hear about these events that happen in schools, you always hear about the hero teacher or the hero student who gave their lives to protect other students. Well, that's stupid. They shouldn't have to give their
I
lives.
wanna
They
see
should
that-
take someone's life to protect the
yeah, I
kids.
want to see that teacher doing an interview afterwards.
Yeah. If
You know?
someone is willing to go to that length to protect the kids that they love, their students, why
Yep.
not give them the tools and the ability to actually do something?
And let
so
them
that they
come out
can
of
go
the
home.
woodwork to their principal and say, I am one of your teachers that carry.
Mhm.
Here, now you know.
We may not have to
but
tell the principal.
I
That's
am-
why Representative Wilcox's bill is so important.
Well,
we
I'm
can
just saying,
circumvent the administration completely on this.
but
Well,
I'm just saying that the principal, I am an ally in the event that this happens. If you alert my classroom, just like you're doing all these others, just know that I'm going to be somebody who is watching my kids
Yeah.
with a firearm.
Yeah.
Imagine if a principal could actually defend his building. He knows his teachers, he knows which ones, and he can say, all right, you guys push out. How's this hallway? Hallway secure. And then that whole hallway, all those classrooms are secure.
Mhm.
And then he can move them out and defend the building.
There's a lot of areas to go with this. I think right now, a lot of what I'm trying to model this after is what Sheriff Smith has done in Utah County,
Mhm.
because he does tactical training for teachers already, and it's a heavy burden for the county to put on because they have to have the personnel there, and the teachers have to. They think it's a 24-hour program for them over several weeks. They come in on their own time, on their own dime, spend their own money. The sheriff's department's paying for ammunition and its personnel to do this training. It's costing a lot, but it's been a great program for the people of Utah County because they have trained professionals coordinating with teachers to
Mm.
protect their kids. Why not give more people this opportunity?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's the way it should. I think empowering people to defend themselves and giving them that structure, I think that's the ultimate way to deal with it.
And on that note, we have to reiterate, schools are not gun-free zones.
Not in the state of
not
Utah.
in the state of Utah. Like I said, my wife and
Yeah.
I, 2008 when we moved here, we got our permits, we got guns, and we've been carrying in our
And
kids'
we're
schools
the
ever
only
since then.
state, if I remember.
Other states, what they have done, like to kind of get around this, I believe, to some degree, they say it's not illegal if the administration allows it.
Yeah.
And what the thing is, you're never going to find a principal or the president of a university that says you can have guns here. So effectively, they've done nothing.
The state of Utah, if it's a public school,
If they receive public funding, they must allow concealed carry.
Because it is your
you are-
constitutional right.
and you have to have a concealed carry permit. So all you guys who do the constitutional carry, don't do it. You can get in trouble.
Mhm.
Get your concealed carry permit, and I'm a foster of that anyway.
and
I
get
know
your
we
training.
have constitutional carry. Get your concealed carry permit, because also, if we ever lose our great legislators here in Tooele County, and we end up with some less than great legislators, and they want to go look at that, maybe doing away with firearms ownership or restricting it a little bit within the state, a big old stack of concealed carry permit holders that they have to say, oh, I've got to wade through all these people to take this right.
And what kind of are you getting pushback from any of your colleagues on this?
I haven't yet, but I also, it's just become public. So,
Oh, so that starts
Well,
starts next
Jared
week.
was drooling over this bill.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh.
I thought
He
this
could
was
not
the
wait.
this was the greatest thing ever.
So I have another one that'll come out soon that I've taken some laws from Washington, Arizona, and a few others. I'm working with another fella on this one who's I've had some issues with the way those who do have to use their firearms defensively in this state, and those who carry sometimes have a presumption of guilt, as well as how easy it is to have someone say that you're brandishing a firearm. And this particular firearms lawyer said, you know what, we should work on this together. So the basic outline of this, by looking at other states, is if you're moving or transferring a firearm, let's say you go to school grounds and you grab the gun out of your car and you stick it in your
or
holster.
your teacher, and you pull it out of the
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah, you're not brandishing firearms. So we're redefining and cleaning up the
right.
definitions of brandishing.
Because some people have been arrested for brandishing just by moving the thing from one box into a holster.
So we're redefining that. We're also redefining what the state is responsibility is. So let's say you're in Salt Lake County, let's just use that as an example, and you have
It's
to use
just a hypothetical.
Yeah,
We
it's
don't
a
need to go.
hypothetical, and you have to use your firearm in a defensive way. And let's say you have a prosecuting attorney that may not necessarily agree with the use of firearms.
It would
and-
never happen in Salt Lake County.
No. And they decide to come after you and try and prosecute you. If you win your case, they owe you the entire cost of that. They owe you all the lawyer's fees.
Easy,
Because
Tim.
you were practicing your Second
This
Amendment
is a
right.
family-friendly show. We don't need to go into stuff that. This
David
is-
Weiss has joined the comments. He said we should have tax breaks for people who open carry, and citizens willing to
for people
respond.
who open carry.
Citizens willing to respond is not different than volunteer firefighters, especially if they've had training that they can send to the state for reimbursement. The state gets an idea that, wow, this person is really well trained. If they have engagement with their local PD, and when they do those run-ins, they do those practice in shooters, things that they do with teachers and kids, all of this becomes, we know this teacher's here, this teacher, we know we've got 6 that have applied for that reimbursement, which tells me they've been to this class, they know all about this, and cops can go in and know exactly who they can count on. And parents can know that it's not some willy-nilly, hey, I just decided to carry a gun today. I don't know how to load it. I don't know how to.
Yeah, I just went over and bought a gun at Cal, and I'm just here.
Yeah.
Right. We want
They had a
people
sale.
who take every precaution. So getting your concealed weapons should take hours. And then, you get background checks. So we can see, the state can see that you haven't been in trouble with the law and that you're not crazy. And then there's so many different options for you to train. And especially if the local PDs trained these teachers while they're doing these drills and in the schools that they're in, and it just becomes more eyes in the building. It also becomes more safety for our kids.
It
and
also
maybe,
becomes one heck of a deterrent.
Yeah.
How is it if the police get called just to be the go-between for the coroner?
Yeah.
The police call and say, "Yeah, we'll go down there," and yep,
And
come
then
on in.
David,
Well, here's the thing. I want to
I
speak
just
real
want to
quick to
finish this
Dave.
comment because he says we worry too much about accident rather than the benefits.
I just want to say I'm not
Yeah.
a fan of open carry for the specific reason is you become the initial target,
Mm-hmm.
and then nobody's defended.
Mm-hmm.
And kids might want to grab at it.
But you can get around that with level 3 holsters and
I
things
think
like
it's
that.
better to not
But
know.
the problem with open carry is the bad guy comes in, you're down first, you've given him a second firearm,
Mm-hmm.
and the kids are now unsafe. I like concealed carry so that he comes in, he moves past. I want the littlest, oldest, closest to retirement teacher to be carrying a 357. And I want that 357 to be loaded hollow point, ball, and snake shot in that order around those 6-cylinder, because I want that guy to recognize each time he gets impacted with that sledgehammer.
So a couple comments on this note.
I see the one about last night when I was driving home from one of my million meetings. We do have doctors obviously at this point asking still if you have firearms in your home as a first question.
I've been asked that.
I have not, and thank goodness I think I found the right doctor because
Yeah.
they haven't
Good.
asked me that.
I changed doctors too after.
That is something that I don't know if anyone's addressing at this session or not. I know there's been discussion in the past saying, look, it's not relevant to your health. If they ask you a question about mental health, and then they ask you if you've ever been involuntarily put in a nut home, a mental institution.
Yeah, it's fitted for a long sleeve jacket.
Yeah, then you can go down the route of asking, because then you're asking several in-depth questions about someone's relevant mental health and their legal status.
Well, I could
but
see,
even then, it's not a doctor's job. That's a psychologist.
If I went into a doctor to, have him check my blood pressure and that, why is he asking that? If I'm in there saying, look, doc, I need to be put on some make me happy pills, maybe then that can be an introduction to
a part of the discussion.
Is there safety? Is your environment safe for your headspace?
Yes.
And that depends on where I take them in that. If I'm just feeling depressed, I don't think that's where it should be asked. But if I'm like telling them, look, I've got some ideation problems, then you go down that conversation route.
I'm going to take you on a different route, because the doctor who asked me was my child's pediatrician.
Oh my goodness.
Now listen, I get it, but I was offended that she asked me, and I said, I'm not required to answer that. She said, you're not, but I just want to bring awareness that if you have guns in your home with teenagers, that you have them locked away and that you're comfortable that they won't get in the hands of your teenagers, because depression in teenagers has skyrocketed. Suicide rates have rocketed. And she just says, I like to ask parents because it makes them fully aware that could happen. Whereas most parents don't think about it, especially when the child's been raised around a weapon. It's not a toy. They know that. But then you get a teenager who is in depression, and that might be an outlet, they think. And so she just said, just make sure you know where they are and they're locked up. That's all I'm asking, because going into puberty, kids struggle. And if there's bullying at school, if there's something happening at school, you just want to make sure your child doesn't have access to a firearm without you knowing about it.
That is true. And, I think I'm a holistic gun owner. I think owning guns is about housing them correctly, using them correctly, seeking training. I'm a hippie gun owner. Holistic training, holistic gun living.